Hi everyone, welcome to another video. If you're new here, I'm Rion Paper. So glad to have you here. This video is gonna be dazzling because I'll be playing with these Pennonia liquid shimmer potions. These are a really cool thing. With these shimmer potions, which is basically just shimmer in a liquid, and with these, you can mix your own shimmer fountain pen inks. So I got 3 colors, and there's plenty more as well. But I got the gold one, the silver one, and the jade one. So the jade one is a Cold Pants exclusive, Cold Pants in the UK. And that's why I ordered these. So that's why I was able to get this one. And I'll just show you. They come in these tiny boxes. It contains 15 grams of shimmer. And I was wondering if it's also just 15 milliliters. I'm not sure. It does look like more or less 15 milliliters, but I wouldn't be able to tell you. So they come with this little pipette that you can use to mix the shimmers. And in it, you see there's this very, very shiny liquid. A lot of the shimmer is going to be stuck to the bottom of the vial. That's the same for any shimmer ink, basically. So you just have to agitate it for a bit. You can shake it really well. And just make sure that all of the shimmer is suspended in the liquid before you do anything with the ink. It goes fairly easily, just a couple shakes, and most of it is already floating in the liquid. So then we also have the silver one, which, surprise, looks like silver. And the gold one, yeah, you guessed it, that one looks like gold. It's funny because I found that the gold one is notably harder to get into suspension than the other two. This one will take a couple of good shakes before it's actually usable. But what I wanted to do in this video is, well, luckily the cap's still there. What I want to do in this video is swatch the shimmers and show you, just without any ink in it, what the shimmer looks like on paper. And then we're going to do a little bit of an experiment and try to come up with a nice combination that we can try out. And I'll show you how I mix the shimmer with the fountain pen ink and how you could do the same thing at home if that's something that you'd like to play around with. The video is not sponsored in any way. I was just super, super curious ever since I got to know that these things exist, and I really wanted to try them out. So yeah, that's what we're gonna do. The first one we're gonna try and swatch is the gold shimmer. And I'm just using this little Q-tip that I snapped into. And bear in mind that this is super concentrated. You're gonna use just a couple drops on 2, 3, 4, 5 milliliters of ink. You're just gonna use a couple of drops. So the ink won't be as shimmery as it appears now on paper, but it will give you a good idea of what the shimmer looks like. Then we have silver. And then we have the jade shimmer. so let's see. Look at how crazy shimmery that is. I told you the video would be dazzling. So this is what the shimmers look like. And now I think it would be fun to mix them with something. I think I want to make 2 sample files with an ink and a shimmer. But let's just take a look at some combinations that we can come up with. For the gold shimmer, obviously, like, let's first just get this out of the way. You can make literally any combination, and I think there are so many possibilities that will all look equally incredible. So I've just brought with me to my desk just a few inks to talk about some combinations, but honestly, I could see this work with almost every ink that I have. You could also, if you wanted to be even more experimental, you can combine 2 shimmers and get a sort of mixed shimmer effect. Something like Jagerbon Vert Atlantide has both silver and gold shimmer. So if that's an ink that you like, maybe you'd like mixing these 2. I also know that they have a red and an orange shimmer. I think those would both combine really cool with a gold shimmer to get sort of that warm coppery feel. Lots of things to explore there. So for the gold shimmer, I think that it would look really cool with a dark brown. I think dark brown and gold is a very classy combination. Looks very elegant, very refined. So I was thinking of Diamine Macassar. Macassar is a beautiful, deep, dark brown ink. That's honestly, I mean, it's really pretty, but it's not the most exciting ink. And I think that it would look really cool with a bit of shimmer added to it. Another ink that I could really see working is Diamine Honeyburst, this one. And Honeyburst is a very orangey, warm, slightly brown leaning yellow. And by combining these 2, you get an ink that is quite similar to Diamine Golden Sands from their Shimmertastic line, but it's even warmer. It's even more sort of coppery. I don't know. I'm trying to come up with more adjectives, but kind of running out here. But combining these 2 would result in an ink that's just a tad warmer and also a tad darker, I think, than Diamine Golden Sands. I also think that the gold would look incredible with Aurora and Klingner Old Golden Green, which is this sort of warm, yellowy green color. I think that would look really cool with a gold shimmer, very elegant as well. And obviously, between these 2, between the gold and the green, but also the gold and the brown, there's a lot more contrast than, for example, between the Honeyburst ink and the gold. Those 2 would be a bit closer together. I also think that this one would be really nice, the Diamine Twilight, which is sort of a very dark, kind of unsaturated blue. That would result in something like a night sky with stars, I think. Very, very nice combination as well. But I might keep this one for silver. So yeah, let's take a look at the things that I came up with for silver. So I'm thinking this might be nice, the Diamine Twilight. I think the silver would look especially great with Diamine Twilight because Twilight is a bit more unsaturated, which makes it feel a bit cooler. And I think the silver would exaggerate that even more and add to the cool character of the ink by also making it more interesting. And another one that would be really cool is Dominant Industry Fisherman at Sea, which is a beautiful dark green color that I also think would look really cool with a silver shimmer. And then let's see for the jade one. So unfortunately, I picked 2 inks for the jade one that I haven't swatched yet, so I don't have the swatch cards. But that's Aurora Borealis, quite a well-known ink by Diamine. It's a teal color, a very nice and deep teal color. And I think what's interesting about this one is that obviously teal is sort of composed of blue and green, as in it's somewhere in that middle ground between blue and green. So I think that by adding either a green or blue shimmer, you sort of start changing or playing with the equilibrium between the 2 base colors. Whereas if you would mix this with a gold shimmer, for example, that would also look very, very cool. But in that case, it's the shimmer doesn't interfere with the color, or not. It doesn't really interfere with the color, but it interferes with your perception of the color. I don't know if you've noticed that with shimmer inks, but sometimes when the shimmer has a very pronounced color, it really changes how you perceive the color of the base color of the ink. I don't know if that makes any sense. I feel like I've said interfere and base color 70 times in one sentence, but yeah, I think this would look really cool. And another combination that I came up with and that I would like to try at some point is a Diamine Graphite. Diamine Graphite is a gray ink, but it's a gray ink that has green undertones if you swatch it. And I think it would be really nice to accentuate those green undertones by adding a green shimmer to it. I think that would look really cool and make this one a really interesting gray ink. Whereas normally I love gray inks, but it's a relatively boring ink, I suppose. And I think the shimmer would make it a super interesting ink. So the ones that I want to try the most, that I'm the most curious about today, are Diamine Macassar, the dark brown one with the gold shimmer, and Diamine Twilight, the dark blue one with the silver shimmer. So that's the ones that I'm going to be mixing and that I'm going to be trying out first. So how do you do this? Let's see, Pennonia says a lot of things in Hungarian that I can't read, but luckily it's also there in English. And they say using the pipette, add 2 to 5 drops of shimmer to 5 milliliters of Pennonia ink. So they specifically name Pennonia ink because that's what they've tested. Obviously, they can't test every ink brand in the world, so it's best just to not make any claims about whether that works or not. From what I've read online, it really doesn't matter, especially if you're not just dumping the shimmer into the bottle, but you're mixing small quantities in sample files. You can just play around with it. I doubt you'll do anything harmful to your ink or your pens, unless you add way, way, way too much shimmer and it can really clog up the pen. Pennonia says 2 to 5 drops on 5 milliliters of ink. I found that you can go a little over that if you want the shimmer to be a little bit more pronounced. You'll probably still use less shimmer than Robert Oster's Heart of Gold, so you'll be fine. But that is really up to you. If you do this at home, I would suggest just, starting with a small quantity, swatching it, seeing if you like it. You can always add a little bit more shimmer, obviously, but you can't take away from it. So what I'm gonna do, I think 5 milliliters of ink is too much for what I want now. I'm thinking more of doing 2 milliliters, and I'm probably gonna add 2 drops of shimmer to that. So I'm placing the sample file in this bottle cap that I'm using as a sample file holder and works quite well. I'm just gonna give the ink a little shake. It's not a shimmer ink or sheening ink. I don't really know why I shake it always, but it's just become a habit. And then I'm just using this pipette to fill up the sample file. And then I'm going to use the pipette that came with the shimmer. Obviously, you can use any pipette, but I'm trying not to cross-contaminate too much. Going to give this one a good shake. It settles really, really fast, especially with this enormous amount of shimmer in a bottle. And we're just going to add 2 drops to the sample. And then you can already see, if I turn this around, that there's a bit of shimmer residue on the bottom. Well, not too bad actually. I'm going to give this a good shake. Well, let's swatch this one and see if we think it's enough shimmer, or if maybe we should add a little bit more. And as with a lot of shimmer inks, you don't immediately see the shimmer. It'll be more apparent once the ink starts to dry, so we'll just have to wait for a little bit. And in the meantime, I'm going to start doing the same with the blue ink and the silver shimmer. So I'm just going to combine those. So let's see if we can see some of the shimmer. There's a little bit, but I think it's too little. I'm actually gonna add a bit more shimmer to this. Give it another good shake, and I'm gonna make another swatch to see if I like this better. So one thing to add, I think, is that obviously with the shimmer potion, the more shimmer potion you add, the more you are diluting the base color of the ink. You can already see that a little bit with this swatch, that the base color starts to get slightly lighter. I don't think it's too bad. I don't think it takes away too much from the base color, but it's definitely something to take into consideration if you're mixing with an ink that is already on the verge of being just legible but still being really light. Then you might hold back a bit. You might want to hold back on how much shimmer you're actually adding. All right, let's just see if I can get this to show up on camera, because there is definitely some gold shimmer visible now. It's fairly subtle on the brown ink, but it does give it a lovely, lovely warm golden shine. Then I'm also just going to go ahead and add a little bit more shimmer to the blue one. I haven't swatched that one yet, but seeing as how this one plays out, I'm fairly confident that we can use a bit more glitter. I love this ink. Diamine Twilight is such a good color. So right off the bat, you can see just a bit of shimmer. I don't think it'll show up on camera, but I'm just gonna let this dry for a bit and then I'll show you what it looks like. There's still a little bit of wet spots, but I think it'll be dry enough to show you what the shimmer looks like. So you can see that the macassar, the brown one on the right, has definitely a bit more shimmer than the one on the left. And then the Twilight has a beautiful layer of silver shimmer. I think that, and that was also what I noticed the first time I was playing with these inks last week. I feel like the green one, the jade one, and the silver one are more visible in the ink than the gold one. I don't know if that's because of the type of shimmer that goes into it. I don't really know much about that, about the technicalities. But yeah, I'm having the feeling that the gold shows up a little less. Maybe it's not even in terms of prevalence, it's just in terms of how bright the shimmer looks. The silver shimmer just looks really, really bright, whereas the gold one looks a bit more subtle in the way that it reflects the light. But yeah, overall, I think this is such a fun little project and so fun to play around with. Mixing inks, by the way, is also something that I've really been thinking about. Oh, you can also really start to see the gold shimmer now on the left one, huh? I like this. I like both of these combinations a lot. It will be a while before I've tried every combination that I want to try. But I'm really curious to know, have you ever used these types of liquid shimmer before? I know that Pennonia has them, obviously, but I've also seen Wearingle release a couple of shimmer potions. The interesting thing there is that they have a couple of sort of pre-mixed combinations where it's like part silver and part red, I believe, or part gold and part red, which gives sort of a rose gold kind of vibe. Very interesting stuff. The ones by Wearingle are a bit more expensive, I believe. These ones from Pennonia are actually quite affordable. But yeah, let me know if you've tried any of these before, and if so, have you found a winning combination? Have you made some really unique shimmer ink that you're really happy with? Is that a combination you would really like to see together? Yeah, I'm really curious to see what you guys can come up with. I really hope you liked the video. If you did, feel free to subscribe to keep in touch, and I hope to see you in the next one. Have a good day. Bye!